Who on this forward group do you think is going to surprise? Who's a guy that we're not paying attention to that is better, that's going to be better than people think?
Stephan?
Oh, I got one. I think Antoine Roussel. I think he had a pretty not great year last year, but he also was coming off an off season with a surgery and a long recovery. That's maybe to be expected from that. He had a pretty fantastic first year with the Canucks, and his history in Dallas is strong. And I think in that division where you're going to be playing the same teams night in and night out, to have that guy who lives rent free in the opponent's heads is not a bad thing to have. And I think he's been showing off a little bit of interesting passing plays with Roget, especially in training camp. And I think Roussel is someone who has a lot more to give than they gave last year.
Yeah, I agree with him on that one.
I think you pointed the wrong way from my perspective. There you go.
Get it right, Chris.
Hey, I'm a little bit out of practice. Give me some slack here.
My guy's Adam Gaudette. I think that he last year was a bit of a plateau year for him, but I think that he has more to give. And if he does decide to have that competition and push for a top six role, having that internal competition is massive, and that'll push other players like a Virtanen, like a Höglander, to be better. So I'm cheering for Gaudette to do well this year, and I think he has the potential to do that.
I'm going to go with Brock Boeser. I think last year was just a kind of a tough year for him, just in personal life with his dad, and he had the contract negotiation going into the season, and but showed fairly well during the postseason. Has that experience behind him now, a little bit of a confidence boost. Hopefully, I think we'll see some pretty good things out of number 6 this year.
Yeah, Brock Boeser was going to be mine as well. I think that he got overly criticized over last year because he wasn't scoring. I think his overall game has improved, and I think that he's going to have a bounce back year at getting back to the scoring level that he has shown in the past. But my 1B was going to be Adam Gaudette, just because of he's even what's come out in last week, that he was dealing with a stomach issue of some sort that wasn't allowing him to eat properly. So he's got that fixed. So I think he's now been able to put on some weight he was really struggling to do so in the past, and that will really help him stand up to the rigors of the NHL game a little bit better, and hopefully that means that he'll be able to take that next step and become more of a regular ice time type center, and be more of a true 3C as opposed to more of a sheltered one that he has been he was for last year.
I think Brock Boeser needs to show his offensive skill this year if the Canucks are going to be as successful as they want to be. Look at the top goaltenders in this division. You have Markstrom, you have Anderson, you have Price, and to get good goals, to get goals, you need to have that shot, and you need to have that offensive threat, and that might put a bit of pressure. If he decides to show up and shoot like he can and score like he can, then that puts a hard matchup against the Pearson line, against the Horvat line, and it just spreads out the depth more. And then you can rely on 2 scoring lines along with having a his defensive game, which did improve last year. But yeah, he needs to be successful this year in scoring.
All right, with that,
my answer.
Oh, sorry, Kev, go for it.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jeez.
I'm going to go. I was going to pick Tanner Pearson. I think he's going to. I think you look at this defense in this division. It's not awesome. There's not a defense that I'm like, oh my gosh, this defense is great. Like, there's some good core defense, but there's some bad. And I think Pearson. I think secondary scoring, I can see Tanner Pearson having a better than expected year in terms of production, offensive production this year.
He's coming
Go
off
ahead,
of basically a career year. He had 45 points in 69 games, and his best before that was 44 and 80. So if he can build on that, then oof.
Okay, go ahead now.
All right. Just we're talking about Boeser, and I've got a bet with someone on Boeser's goals. It's just a beer bet. Rounds on me if I'm wrong, but the over under on how many goals Boeser scores this year, I've got it at 15.5, and I took the over. What is it? What's everyone else taking?
For
It was a
best,
56 game season. That's close.
I'm probably gonna go slightly under because you're asking a guy to score one every four.
It's a 22 goal pace on the normal season.
I think you take the over every time on that, personally speaking. I think Boeser's lack of goal scoring last year was such an obvious thing because he is a goal scorer by trade. But I think he had a fine season last year in almost every other area of his game. And I think, goal scoring is one of those things that's very anomalous. You get a bit of bad puck luck and it shaves 5 goals off your total. I think barring a serious injury, knock on wood, I think you're going to win that bet. So, look forward to that.
Yeah, I would go with the over. He played 57 games last year with 16 goals, and I don't think he's going to have as off a year as he did last year as far as goal scoring. And yeah, it's puck luck it has to do with it too. But I think overall, I think you're going to win that bet, Sean.
if those stats are from last year and that's comparable to what's coming up this season, yeah, I would take the over. Yep.
With that as well. Kev, did you get your answer in?
I said no, but it's 15.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to go no. I'm going to go under just slightly. If it was 15, I would say yes. I think he gets 15.
Yeah.
All right. That sort too.
Yeah. With Virtanen as well, shotgun Jake. How many times is Chris going to shotgun? I've got the over under at 13.5 for his goal, which is
That one's a little
goal
tougher
pace
to
again.
follow.
Say that again, Sean.
It's about a 20 goal pace again.
Well,
I guess to me, okay, I want to throw this out here. Like last year, what did Virtanen got? 18 goals last year, right?
Yeah.
Yet we were not enamored with Virtanen. So if he gets less, is it a big deal? If we get a more well-rounded Jake Virtanen doing what we think Jake Virtanen can do, are we better off for it?
Kinda. I too kind of think, especially now with the emergence of Podkolzin and Höglander, that if Virtanen has a future with the team, it's probably not in the top 6. It's probably as that, I hate to bring the name up because it's a controversial one, but that Rafi Torres sort of bottom 6 presence that has, like Torres was a high draft pick too, right? He had plenty of skill. I don't know that Virtanen ever accepts that role in Vancouver. Like if he doesn't get into the top 6 on this contract, I gotta think he looks elsewhere and tries to take one last crack at being a true top 6 talent somewhere else. If that weren't a factor, though, I think that would be best for him, is develop into that. Maybe he's not putting up as many goals, but he's also not leaking as many in his own end.
I'd say no. I don't think he does it. His time on ice last year was averaged out to 13 minutes. So it having a 20 goal scorer playing 13 minutes, that's depending whether or not he can crack the top 6 and push his way past Höglander, then I'd say yes, he has a good chance. But I don't see the progression there, and that's why at the beginning of this episode I said that he needs to make that jump and solidify himself as a player, as a gamer, as a first-round draft pick. And I know that, yeah, that was a long time ago, and that he won't probably live up to that first-round draft pick. But no matter where you go, here in Calgary, Sam Bennett has always been criticized for being picked 4th overall, and at some point, yeah, you got to shed that. But at the same time, you do have to solidify yourself as a scorer, as a difference maker, and that's how he is a difference maker. I mean, he only had 36 points last year, 18 assists, 18 goals. So I don't think that he will do it. But I mean, if he does, good on him. And I'd love to see more shotgun Jakes from Schneitz down there.
As much as I'm probably biased towards wanting to shotgun more, I'm going to take a Kev-like stance and say he just barely misses it, that he's just a little under. And again, I'm not going to have nearly as technical as an answer as everyone else, but I tend to just look at everything from more of a big picture, eye level sort of take.
And that's why we love you.
Going back to what Kevin asked there about well-roundedness, I mean, I'll take a more well-rounded Jake Virtanen over stats any day.
Yep.
Yeah, looking like you look at his last, like he got 8-17, but he didn't. His last goal, looking at this, was February 25th against Montreal. He didn't score in the last 8 games. He didn't score. There's long. He went long stretches without one. He was averaging around 20 shifts. I got a game against Dallas here. He was -3. Like, I know that plus minus is a useless stat, but I don't know. I wonder if this is part of the battle, is what Jake's like, I'm scoring. Travis, what do you want? And Travis is like, you don't have to score. You have to do some other, you have to, pardon the Louis Erickson reference, you have to do a few more little things.
Yeah, and that's the battle. But the way I look at the way I'm looking at it is I'm taking the under on that as well. I think he's going to be around that mark, but I think it's a 50-50 shot that it's either way. And but the big thing for me is if Gaudette takes that next step and Roussel it can rebound, that line could be really good. And who knows, maybe that's the third line that they've been looking for, and they get that offensive pop from that line. And maybe he does, and if that's the case and he goes over on that, then that's a really good step for the Canucks.